Hi guys, thanks for stopping by to check our newest video. This video will be of three parts. One, the experience in the boatyard in general. One about Susan, I have a few words to say. And finally a good news concerning me. So about the boatyard. If you're gonna hold out, even if you decide for boatyard to do things for you, it'd be a good idea to get familiar with what's going to be done and how should be done, because they will for sure charge you the price for experts, but a lot of times they are not very much of experts. So when a job is done, it would be nice for you to kind of inspect it, so you know you're satisfied. Because I will tell you a few horror stories what happened. Years ago, a guy came in our moorings in Coronado with his new 46-foot cat, and a couple of weeks later he said he's gonna go have his mast stepped. He was all excited, so he took the boat into boatyard. They stepped the mast for him. He came back all proud and happy, and a few days later I was downstairs in the boat and suddenly we hear a crash. The first thing I thought maybe some powerboat went by and hit one of the boats, so I jumped up right away, scanned the moorings. I didn't see no other boats, but suddenly I noticed that our friend mast was in the water. So naturally right away I jumped on a dinghy, as several other people did, and we all got to his boat and I pulled the mast out of the water on his deck. It took us more than 2 hours. By then the owner came by. He was all surprised. So anyway, what we found out was this here. When they installed the mast, as you probably know, the turnbuckles are attached to chain plates with a clever spins. Now, one thing they forgot was a simple small thing which is very inexpensive. They forgot to put a cotter pins on. For those who don't know, this is a clever spin which goes to a fork of the turnbuckle, and here is a cotter pin which goes into a clever spin, and then you bend the ends so it prevents from coming out. Now, it took a few days for the clever spin to work itself out and the mast fall in the water. Now, can you imagine if a guy would left him straight for a cruising ground and he would be 200-300 miles offshore when that happened? Even worse if that thing would fall on top of his head. So anyway, the second story is from a boat happened in Mexico. They hauled out. They had some transmission problems, so naturally yard had to disconnect the shaft. And when the transmission was fixed, they put the shaft back on, connect the transmission, but they only installed the one bolt as a temporary. But as you know, temporary things sometimes become a permanent. They launched the boat forgetting attach the shaft properly. And the guy was leaving the boatyard going out of the harbor when his shaft fell down. Luckily a fishing boat going by gave him a tow bag into the yard to fix the things right. Now can you imagine when he lost the power, he could have very easy end up on the rocks and losing his boat. So if you think that a boatyard, because they charge you prices of professionals, will do exactly what you paid for, you will be surprised that it's not always so. So that is why I say it's good for you to get a little familiar with the jobs what's supposed to be done, so you can inspect it and know that thing is actually done before you go in the water. Now it's the same thing about bottom paint. You might think, oh, if they paint my bottom paint, what can they possibly go wrong? So you should remember this. And if your bottom paint is in a good order, it's just gotta be cleaned properly, lightly sanded, and you can apply a bottom paint. But if it shows any kind of primer at all, the primer has to be prepared by sanding, cleaning, and apply a new coat of primer. And then before the primer gets cured, that means still has to be sticky to touch. Not wet, sticky to touch. You should apply the bottom paint on it, and then you will have a good chemical bond. And again, you have to be there in the yard to supervise, because if you just leave them there and you expect them to do it right, you'll be surprised. If they are busy with some other boat, they might just get to your boat whenever they feel like it or time permits, and you're going to end up with that kind of job. So now I want to talk more about our boat. You know, even if you talk to professionals, a lot of times you get different answers. And you can check on the internet, and the same thing, different people have different answers. So now I'm talking about zincs. As you saw in our previous video, we were changing our zincs. Having steel boat, zincs are very, very important. So some of you people who left the comments on our last video, they were asking if zincs should get installed on top of clean, shiny metal, or you should paint it, the metal first. So the truth is, and even if you ask the electrician in the boatyard, you will get sometimes a contradictory report, and same thing on the internet. So sometimes you have to use your common sense and try to make a sense out of it yourself. Here is the reason why I think installing zinc on top of unpainted steel is simple. Do you know when they make a zincs, they take a metal plate and they pour zinc on top of it. So the metal plate is surrounded by zinc. And the reason for it is very simple. If you just had a clear zinc and you bolt it down, the corrosion between your nut and the zinc would eat up the zinc very fast. And as soon as that happened, the zinc would get loose and you would stop having electrical connection. Now, important part is to remember that for zinc to work properly, there must be electrical connection, in other words, conductivity between the zinc and the steel. So now, once the zinc gets loose, you lose the protection, so all the money you pay for zinc and the labor to install become nullified. So for same reason, they install the steel plate in the middle of the zinc. Will be same explanation why the steel should be properly primed and painted before you install the zinc. Because what happens is, if you put a zinc directly against the steel, you will start having corrosion, and naturally zinc being a less noble metal, eating up first. Your steel start rusting, eventually marine growth would be growing on top of it, and you would lose the protection of the zinc because zinc would not be tight. So because of it, any steel which is going to be in the water should be properly primed, especially with the two coat epoxies, and then a bottom paint. The studs, the bolts, you will be mounting zinc on, they have to be perfectly clean, so they have a very good electrical connections. As long as you have a good electrical connections between zinc and your steel hull, you have no problem whatsoever. So that is your answer, and I'm pretty sure if you think about it, it will make a sense to you too. Not only metal boats, but also fiberglass and a wood boat need a zinc, because if you have any kind of metal fittings like through hole underwater, and also your shaft is a different material than your propeller, you need a zinc, and then all your fittings should be properly bonded so they have electrical connection. So anyway, that's so much for a zinc. The next thing I would like to say something about Susan. We get many compliments about Susan, how a hard worker she is, what a good first mate, what a big help she is. But the true thing is that a video only show half a part of it, or just a portion of it. You know, when Susan worked very hard all day long, on the end of the day I said to her, you know, Susan, you must be really tired working so hard. There is a restaurant right next to a yard. Why don't we go out for a dinner? She looked at me and she said, don't you think we're spending enough money for all out? Is it really necessary to go spend some more? Now, Susan worked in our restaurant many years ago, so she's used to preparing food for many people at once. So for her to prepare food for only us two, it's more like it's not a big deal, in other words. So after she finished dinner, I got up and I want to do the dishes, and she told me, you just lay down, I want you to get better with your sciatica, because you've been hurting for a long time. So she didn't let me do the dishes. And afterwards, when we go to bed, she told me, hey, why don't you lay down on your stomach, give you a massage, the way she was giving to me every single day since I came down with the sciatica. So much for Susan being a hard worker. Now, I've been with Susan for 40 years, and I can tell you that she is quite different than any American girl I ever met. When I tell her, would you like a diamond ring? She told me, what for? It will not keep me warm, cannot have a conversation, there is nothing can do for me. Or if I would say, do you want a new clothes? She would say, what for? I have enough, what I needed. But if I say to you, what do you think? Do we need a rotary sander? she said, yeah, that will come very handy when we haul out next time. So it's really a different kind of brand over a girl. And believe me, that is not bragging, that is honest God's truth. On the same token, she's very strong-minded. She's not a pushover. When she thinks she is in right, she will not back off. She is, I would say, very, very spiritual in way of thinking. So I guess all I can do is being an equal partner by help as much and do as much as I can, and give her a respect as any husband should do. So that is for Susan. And then finally, I want to say the good news is this. As you know, if you watched our videos in the past, when we got to Boatyard, my sciatica still was bothering me. I was limping. I couldn't bend much. It was much better because I could get up, but it was not totally gone. So after the first day watching Susan working, I just couldn't stand just to watch. I decided I better do something too. So I took 2 ibuprofen. About half an hour later, I went downstairs. I picked up a grinder and I started working. And let me tell you that much. After getting up and down from the ladder 50 times, maybe 100 times, I forgot about my sciatica. And as I went to the bathroom down the yard, when I came back, Susan says, you know what, I noticed? You're not limping anymore. And I said, wow, I didn't even pay attention to it. So a week later, when we finished with the Boatyard work, it was time to launch it, I had a zero pain whatsoever. I had nothing hurting me. I was not limited to any movement whatsoever. Only thing which I had still to remind me of a sciatica was on my right leg, on my foot. My 3 toes were numb. And also about a circle like this here on the bottom of my foot felt like a swollen. Although it was not really swollen, but it felt like it was swollen, kind of partially numb and swollen. After we went to Island, when we came back after 10 days, even that disappeared. So now my toes feel fine. I don't feel any swollen part of my foot, and I feel totally good. I can walk. We actually go for 3-4 miles walks when we were up in the Catalina. And Susan was surprised, and she gave me many times hugs. Says, I'm so happy that you are fine, because now we can walk together. Because while I was sick, there were many times Susan had to go to the store by herself, and when she came back, she said, I really missed you. Going by myself really sucked. So anyway, this is the video I want to share with you. If you enjoyed, please give us a comment and a thumb up. If you didn't like it, be a good sport and give a thumb up anyway, okay? So I guess that's it. Until next time, we see you. Bye-bye.